So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Monday's Insights and Innovation series. Today we have the wonderful Andrew Brain, who will also be joined by Dean and Andrew Reid. These guys will be talking about the future of audience management systems that will give you better insights and better planning, which is a wonderful thing which we all need for our clients through the Red IQ system. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Brainy to walk you through. Microphone off. Brainy, turn your microphone on. Brainy. Classic Brainy. How many months have we been doing webinars? Like, seriously, guys.
Hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Here we go.
All right.
Introducing Brainy. Here you go, guys.
Classic. Oh, hang on. Let me share my screen again. I do apologise, everybody. It's always a good start, isn't it?
It's only been 18 months.
I'm glad we're all awake. No, thanks for giving us the time to come and have a chat with you today about Red IQ. So it's good to be in front of obviously all you guys from the IMAA. So Red IQ, as you would know, the last probably 12 to 18 months has had a lot of trade press. So essentially it's our audience intelligence tool or a customer data platform, which is now really starting to power a lot of the understanding and insights around 7 audiences, predominantly across a 7+ platform. So as Sammy said, we've got Dean Rosa, who's our head of commercial data, and Andrew Reid, who's the GM of Ovation and TEGA, on this call as well, because they'll take you through, I guess, some of the data partners and what that actually does around insights for this platform, but also around the hand in glove partnership that we do have with Andrew and the guys over at Ovation TEGA. So this, and Sam's made this pretty clear, don't make this a sales pitch. So we're not making it a sales pitch, but just give you a real understanding of, as I said, Red IQ is essentially it's an insights platform, which is really starting to inform much better insights and planning. And this is not just for brands that we work with, it's actually across our own business as well. I'll give you an example of that. You know, if you're thinking about, you know, a TV buying demo of 25, 54-year-old females, 18 months ago, we had a very broad brushstroke approach to that, probably using Nielsen CMV or Roy Morgan when we're trying to understand, you know, the differences of a female 25, 54. 18 months on, we've now got a real good, solid, granular understanding of those audiences. So what does that mean for when we're looking at tent poles and tent pole promotion? It means that there's many, many different ways you need to be trying to talk to a 15, 25-year-old female, because they're all just not the same. So if you think about, you know, a life stage of a female, you've got a young independent versus a new family with young children in the house or a dog. Young children in the house. SAS as a show might not be relevant to those audiences to be watching at 7:30. So it's really starting to understand how you know, 15, 25, 54 might watch on broadcast versus watching through time shift or through VOD later on that night or later on that week. So just covering off what we will sort of run through today. So it really is around, I guess, the future of addressability, and obviously what that means to us around those sort of big tech platforms. The SWIM data foundations, you know, what we're actually building, you know, our first party identity solution off the back of, and then there's premium data partnerships, which I said Dean will take you through, and then also thinking about how does deterministic data, which this is, how does that actually work with and complement single source insights off the back of like a Nielsen CMV or a Roy Morgan, and Andrew will take you through that a little bit deeper in a second. And then ultimately, what does this actually do around the sort of smarter planning with better insights using Red IQ? But I think what you'll start to understand from this platform is that even though we talked to you around this is, you know, 7, a world of 7, this could actually be extrapolated and used actually across the actual the channels and the category. So I think, you know, from a big tech platform, the battleground is definitely sort of heating up. You know, I said those battle lines have been drawn. You know, if you think about Google and and Apple, they've definitely made privacy their MO. That's what they want to go after. So this really starts to put the pressure back on publishers, and we really started to feel this probably about 18 months ago when the conversation around the cookie deprecation and how do we start to future-proof. So we've really been aggressive in the last 18 months to follow GDPR within Seven West Media, and really sort of build out gold standard data privacy and compliance structures. Audiences will want a better use of a platform or a product, and for that in 2022, if you want audiences to be able to give you consent for their data, you need to be really driving that value exchange, and that's why you would have heard at the upfront around things like 7 Shop and 7 Rewards, which we'll be talking about more later on next year. But this really is starting to result in how do we actually bring audiences in, for them to give us consent to their data, and then how do we actually then create better loyal audiences that actually then start to drive insight and surface better insights, deterministic insights across the Red IQ platform. So the actual platform itself, the data foundations, it is about quality. Everything we do is around a logged in user, and driving that 1PD and that identity is around that verified email address. And I say verified email, so we are asking audiences to verify their email once they've subscribed. And we did that in droves over Tokyo. Anything from 2.5 to 3 million email addresses were captured in a 3.5 week period. Once that was off the back of Tokyo Able Games, but also then the Paralympics as well. So authenticated 7+ users. And then what's that really doing? Well, that's actually starting to drive, because that's where most of our viewing is across the connected TV. So it's really starting to understand, okay, well, now we've actually connected to a first-party signal, we can start to understand what they're watching on the connected TV, the largest screen in the home, the biggest emotional connector in the home, but also then sort of plug that in against the other data partners that we have that then draw the insights. So if you think about the declared attributes through 7+, the content consumption will take you through a platform that at the touch of a mouse click, we can look at 13 months worth of 7+ content and actually draw some assumptions off the back of that. The watch history, but also the device usage. So everything around connected TV, mobile, web, the different platforms, if they're watching 7+ on a gaming console versus a mobile device, versus a Chromecast or Apple TV, we can actually start to surf those insights immediately through Red IQ. So when we talk about those insights coming through, so that's essentially our 1PD, which is, I guess, all the user and the device. But the real value in this partnership building at Red IQ has been, I'd say, the absolute strategic hand-in-glove partnership that we've had with Andrew at the team over at TEGA Analytics or TEGA or Ovation, TEGA so called now. But it was one of these relationships where it absolutely made perfect sense for us 18 months ago when we were starting on a journey to, a lot of people would say, play catch up in the identity space. We have absolutely caught up, where TEGA are helping fill in a lot of the holes that we had like prior to Tokyo, but also off the back of that, leveraging some of the data partners that they have, and they're very well-known data partners we'll take you through in a second. But also off the back of that, TEGA have got probably one of the most richest research panels in the country, over 1 million people, where each month they are being asked questions that we can actually pull back into our dashboard as well. And Andrew will take you through that in a little bit in a second. But why this partnership works, it's because as a ticket business and also as a broadcast business, we want to maximize the audiences with tentpole shows and acts. So if you watched Adele last night on 7, but as music content for Ticket Tech, Adele is a beachhead. She is a tentpole, and she will drive other affinities or other acts that TEGA can actually build out a profile on. That works exactly the same way for us, where we look at something like a big brother, and then we want to understand those content affinities. How do we use those content affinities to actually better promote shows to those audiences? How do we have those content affinities and then match those with the other data partners to actually drive a lot of deeper insight? So it makes absolutely perfect sense, and the same methodologies work across both businesses. I'll hand over to Dean. You're running through the data partners.
Yeah, perfect. You might just need to go on mute, so there's easier to do that one. All right, let's just run off one screen then. Apologies, guys. Hopefully you can all hear me. We're still trying to figure out the tech, obviously, after a short 18 months. But just to expand a bit more on, you know, what Brainy was just running through, and our strategic partnership with TEGA. At the crux of it and the core of it, what it really allows us to do is, on one hand, collect all of those first-party signals, which we can use, you know, for the visualizing in terms of the different data points that are there. But then where all the color gets added in now is just through all the different data partnerships now that allows us to go and strike. And what we can do is really kind of append and enhance that view on the audiences now, and all of this kind of sitting within the Red IQ platform that can be used for insights and activation, of course, across not only 7, but across a number of different channels and networks as well. So to quickly run through some of those partnerships that do exist within the platform currently, obviously we have the whole TEG data set, and, you know, I won't do it justice explaining it myself. Andrew Reid will be able to go through that in a lot more detail. But really at the core of it, what you're getting is kind of access to kind of ticket level data, which starts on, you know, giving us an understanding of, you know, motivation and behaviors that drive different decisioning from all the users now that Ticket Tech have a view on. We also have access to Flybuys data, which is basically kind of the grocery transactional data sets. And again, understanding different kind of, you know, previous transactions and histories in terms of, you know, what a weekly, monthly, daily grocery shop might look like. And again, kind of extrapolating all of that data and appending it to all of the different users now sitting within 7+, but more importantly within the Red IQ platform. In terms of kind of financial partners that we have, 2 different partners that power that category for us, or vertical. We've recently struck a partnership with Equifax, which is a credit bureau here in Australia. And that gives us access to, you know, different levels of demand, or different demand for different levels of debt, that users are applying for. So we now start getting a really kind of granular understanding of, you know, people who are applying for credit cards, home loans, personal loans, what their intentions are with those different loans as well, and modeling that out across kind of the wider audience base sitting within Red IQ. MasterCard also feeds into the kind of the suite of different data partnerships there. So MasterCard giving us a really good view of different transactions. So think about what a credit card statement might look like. You know, we understand different kind of purchasing intent and behaviors now across different retail categories. And moving on into Landmarks, so a really interesting partnership here. It kind of works in 2 ways. On one hand, Landmarks gives us an understanding of the users' behaviors out in the real world by tracking their location. Now, all of the Red IQ platform and the users who kind of feed into the platform, all of it has been designed with privacy in mind. So all of the user data that we collect is consented and opted in. So where user has given us a consent, we do have a flag for that to track their location. What Landmarks can start doing is pointing that down to different kind of points of interest across the entire geographical map of Australia. And with that as well, they also license business data. So we do understand, you know, the different levels of physical outlets that a user might be out in the real world visiting. Now, again, we'll caveat, in a pre and post COVID world, obviously a very relevant and powerful partner. The last 12 to 18 months, it has been a bit difficult with the different amounts of restrictions and lockdowns. But as we start opening up and those restrictions start easing, we'll see the scale of this data set really start growing within the platform. You'll see the Weather Zone logo underneath there as well. Now, a really interesting partnership in terms of how Weather Zone feeds into that. Obviously, with the different changes that are happening within the industry at the moment, particularly with iOS and the blocking of location tracking, what Weather Zone has allowed us to do is start collecting those different identifiers. The whole premise here being, when you have a Weather Zone app downloaded, you have given consent to have your location tracked because you want the weather that is most relevant to your current location. So that works hand in hand with that partnership with Landmarks, and it really allows us to kind of scale out that whole partnership and not be too restricted by some of those changes that are rolling out within the industry. Moving along quickly, Car Expert and Cars Guide, really they power that automotive vertical. So we start getting a really good understanding now of different listings and different articles or auto reviews that our users are consuming. Now, collectively, all of that feeds into the Red IQ platform, so you don't have to access any of these different partnerships in silo. What the whole purpose is to kind of centralize all of these different data partners and the different level of information that they append to the users within Red IQ. And what you can start doing now is start building out a really rich profile with a lot of color on all the users based on any kind of criteria now that is available to select. And Andrew Reid will give you a demo of what that all looks like now. And ultimately, what we're really trying to design here is an end-to-end solution, which allows you to not only kind of plan and strategize the different campaigns, but more importantly, activate. And while we'd love to see that activation happen across the 7 network, we're under no kind of disguise here that there are a number of different networks and different channels now which go into kind of the whole media mix. And what Red IQ really allows you to do is kind of transfer the insights that you are deriving from what traditionally is a digital platform, but use it as a proxy now across all the different channels, right? So there's data signals that feed in, which you can use across your whole broadcast campaign, not just with 7. There's data points that feed in, which you can use across all your digital campaigns, your out-of-home campaigns. And as you'll see the demo of the platform, you'll be able to visualize exactly how that starts working. All of the measurement components, when you are trading with 7, the measurement components feed in seamlessly, but there's no reason why any of your existing kind of processes or platforms that help with measurement can't be used in kind of a complementing fashion to start building out rich insights now from the Red IQ platform. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is using all the insights that you are deriving and some of those learnings that you are deriving from the Red IQ platform, start using those for further campaign planning. Now, again, we will caveat, we'd love to see that, with 7 and all the members of the IMAA, but, we're under no illusion that you are activating in us, you are setting out campaigns or setting live campaigns across the entire network and the ecosystem. So with that, I'll pass over to Andrew Reid, who can give you the demo of the platform.
Thanks, Dean, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to present this afternoon on the insights piece around 7 Red IQ. As Dean and Andrew mentioned earlier, the TEGA analytics team have been working very closely with 7 over the last almost 2 years now in developing this product, and it really did start with the focus on the TEGA data set itself and how, as an entertainment data set, with a very large reach across the Australian population, we could use that to enrich the 7 data, and ultimately use that as a leverage point to incorporate other data sets into Red IQ. Thanks, Brady.
Sorry.
The real philosophy here is how do you enrich that single ID in the Red IQ platform? And it's always been a motivation for us to really drive home how you start to understand the viewer, not just across 7 data or TEG data, but how do we add larger data sets as well that kind of meet our criteria around quality and that issue around deterministic viewing of a data point. So we're really sort of pushing the forefront here of incorporating more data sets that give us a good match, and then obviously trying to build out more data features across those IDs that sit inside Red IQ. The point is, and going back to what Brady was talking about earlier, it is now becoming more broader in terms of its reach, in terms of different categories. So not only are we answering questions around entertainment, but now you're starting to introduce questions around auto, FMCG, finance, and travel. And that'll obviously expand over time. So when we start to see, who that viewer is, what they're watching, how they're watching, we can start adding a whole variety of other data sets to their viewing habits, which ultimately means it's far more interesting for an advertiser and for an agency to start utilizing it as a insight and planning tool. The platform itself has been built in a Tableau format, and for some of the technically minded, we're talking about 1.4 billion lines of information that sit behind the interface, and it's a very large data set, because if you can imagine, it's not sample based. It's simply taking large data sets, the TEGA data set, MasterCard, Flybys, Equifax, and others will now be incorporated in the background behind 7RED-IQ. And this is where you sort of go into this system and start to interrogate the data. What you see on screen right now is that interface, which potentially would sit on a planner's desk within the agency or the strategy team, and they would be able to sort of interrogate the data from this point. So right now, when you look at it, you can start to select different filters. If we just run through this quick video, you can start to see how a user can then select a certain feature or view. In this case, the viewer is selecting FMCG categories. So you might have, say convenience foods or frozen foods. That category could be chosen as a filter using the Flybys data. They could also represent a client, for example, in that FMCG space. Once you select the filter, all the data now that sits behind that is now filtered by actual transaction behaviors. So all this data from demographics through to geographics and the segmentation, data such as the 7+ content, Flybys, obviously financial data, all that now is filtered by that original search based on that particular FMCG category. So, and then as you go into this data set, you start to view other, features or variables of that group. In this case, the genome piece, you're looking at demographics, geographic deep dives, the psychographics, which also include Seven's own proprietary segmentations, as well as TEGA and Roy Morgan as well. Against the genome, you can start to filter in a whole lot of other variables that can be based on financial information. And then obviously the filters at the top there can be used by the user to further break down the data. In this case here, you're looking at actual viewing behavior within the 7 network, and not just programs, but what are other programs they're watching within the network as well, going back to that 10-pole example that Brainy mentioned earlier. You can see viewing data by geographic filters, minutes viewing, as well as a broader view of their behaviors as well. If you get down to data partnerships that Dean was mentioning, you can actually look at those partnerships one by one, whether it's Ticketek, whether it's Flybys, MasterCard, or Landmarks, can all be captured within this particular view. So what you're seeing is a very rich view, not just in aggregate, but a breakdown by partner in this particular instance. So we've designed the interface to be very streamlined, very user-friendly, but at the same time, giving you that level of data against a particular viewing audience or demographic to really sort of extrapolate the value out of that in terms of planning and buying, and ultimately strategy as well, because we do want this tool to be seen as a strategic insight piece, as well as something that it has utility around planning and buying around content as well. So this was really a short snapshot of the 7RED-IQ platform, but it does give you, I suppose, in a few minutes, the power of this particular tool against the likes of a Nielsen or a Roy Morgan dashboard as well, keeping in mind that this is all based on deterministic data, as well as also running a research component into this as well. So as Brainy mentioned earlier, we do have a panel within the TEGA environment, which allows us to build out questions around lifestyle or motivations or reasons why people may be buying a product or intending to buy a product. So those type of qualitative research pieces can also be added in to the RED-IQ platform as well. Thanks, Brainy.
Thanks, mate. So I guess from a so when thinking about data and obviously what it's doing deterministically now, there is a way, obviously, that Dean could speak to more than what I would around the BYO solutions that we offer, which is essentially it's a data matching and enrichment piece that then, you know, we would extrapolate the insights to infer better buying across 7 for activation. But also there is a solution there, again, built with in partnership with Andrew and the team, which is around insights as a service. So there's heaps of brands out there right now who actually just want to be able to match data, and it doesn't have to necessarily be bought across a 7 network. So it's a solution that's decoupled from data. But this is, you know, if you wanted to understand more about your audiences to inform strategy and planning, then these solutions also exist across the audience intelligence team within seven right now.
Awesome. Thank you. So with that in mind, guys, the whole premise now for Insights as a Service, basically what we're trying to do is put the power in your hand, and what we've done is effectively replicate, you know, all the kind of addressable audience segments now which are available to trade with Swim. And what we've done is loaded that into the platform. So you not only have to kind of activate with the 7 network, and to Brainy's point, like decoupled all of the insights now that are available, decoupled that from media and trading just with 7. So if you think about it into kind of 3 core categories in terms of, you know, audiences or insights available within the platform. On one hand, we've got, you know, the demographic signals, and that extends kind of beyond just age and gender, and you can start thinking of different life stages, you know, and different kind of the different household compositions as well. We've got interest-based signals as well feeding into the platform, and then lastly, and most importantly, and kind of a recurring theme that you would have heard throughout this presentation, all of it being kind of deterministic data. We do have signals around intent, and that's where all the different data partners that I ran through feed into kind of the overall picture, and all of that is based on, you know, previous and kind of future transactions there. So, you know, if you think of flybys, for example, we do understand, you know, the different grocery buying behaviors that our users have demonstrated. All of that is fed into the platform, and using those as insights now for future planning, or kind of deriving information around future intent to purchase as well. And just to round it off, kind of as I quickly ran through earlier on as well, you know, an end-to-end solution, what that would look like in terms of different kind of measurement pieces that are available. You know, there are measurements that are kind of unique to trading with 7, but there is no reason why this can't sit alongside any of those existing processes or platforms that you're already using, right? So where you're getting kind of your standard metrics around brand uplift, and that's, you know, the likes of Kantar or Gemba that are feeding in, or that you might already be running for some of your campaigns. Moving on to responsiveness, which is powered by, you know, partners such as Agile, or if you are starting to do kind of closed loop reporting through partners such as Flybys, and, you know, actually around people-based measurement, using all of those learnings and insights now and coupling that with what you're generating within the RedIQ platform, and using that to kind of round out and strategize the overall campaign approach. So there's no kind of, you know, one size fits all. You know, there are different elements here, and, you know, different clients, different advertisers, different brands have different needs. So what we're trying to do is be kind of really agnostic and position the platform to be really flexible, and not operate really rigidly where you kind of have to take it all or leave it. What we really want this to do is kind of complement, you know, the existing platforms or traditional platforms, the likes of, you know, Nielsen CMV or Roy Morgan, and start giving you an enhanced view now using some of the learnings or information that we collect on users. So with that, I'll pass back to Brainy, but really we'll open it up to you guys now for any questions or thoughts or initial comments that you might have.
Thanks, Brian.
I think there's a couple of questions in the chat feature, guys.
Oh, great.
And just got one.
Yeah, we've got one there. So around metro and regional audiences. So it's available across both metro and regional markets. Sorry, I'm just going to come into screen. Yeah, the insights are available across both metro and regional markets there. So, for example, in one of the earliest screen grabs of the platform, what we've done is preloaded like Oz10 TV regions. And so again, you can start using that now as kind of that intermediary or that crosswalk between your planning of a broadcast or linear campaign. But really, when you're drilling down into it, you can start breaking it down into any kind of market that is necessary.
Okay.
That's good to know. Thank you.
And there's another question around what's the process to access and the cost associated with it.
So I'll jump on that one. So I guess the reason we're sort of showing you this RedIQ platform is it's because we can understand that the way the market is going. We're looking at all the sort of holding groups are building out their audience management platforms, the Kinesis of this role, etc. So we're looking to build a platform that we can actually put at your fingertips within your agencies. And obviously, yes, there would be a commercial model off the back of it. So it could be a simple monthly fee for of a license, or it could be actually pushed back into a commercial construct around spend. So there's heaps of different ways how we can have a conversation around you guys getting access to it, that we can talk about offline when that interest comes up.
I can also share the details of the guys if anyone wants to get in contact with them afterwards. We can connect the dots there.